First things first, we need to roll for which of the 6 standard deployment maps we will be playing on today. And that's a 2, so that is Dawn of War. On a 1, 2, or 3, the Death Guard will begin deploying first. On a 4, 5, or 6, the Ultramarines will begin deploying first. And so the Ultramarines will begin deploying first. Finally, we need to roll for which side of the board each army will be deploying on. On a 1, 2, or 3, the Death Guard will deploy on this side of the board, and the Ultramarines will deploy on this side of the board. On a 4, 5, or 6, they will deploy on the opposite side. And that's a 4. So the Ultramarines will begin deploying first over on this side of the board. We will be back after the deployment. Now that the deployment is finished, let's take a quick look at the board that we'll be playing on today. The Ultramarines deployed on this side. The Death Guard deployed on that side. We have objective marker 3 right there, objective marker number 5, objective marker number 6, and then over in the Death Guard deployment, we have objective marker number 2, objective marker number 1, and finally objective marker number 4. The Ultramarines finished deploying first, and they deployed their Knight Errant, squad of Tactical Marines, the Repulsor, with the Hellblasters, the Chapter Master, and the Lieutenant all embarked inside, squad of Tactical Marines, the 3rd squad of Tactical Marines, and finally the Land Raider back in this corner with the squad of Terminators embarked inside. In the Death Guard deployment, they have squad of Poxwalkers, Land Raider with one of the Plague Marine squads, one of the Plague Surgeons, and one of the Lords of Contagion embarked inside. Fetid Bloat Drone, Demon Prince of Nurgle, 2nd squad of Poxwalkers, the 2nd Land Raider with the other Plague Marine squad, Plague Surgeon, and Lord of Contagion embarked inside, and finally the 3rd squad of Poxwalkers. Since the Ultramarines did finish deploying first, they will get to go first unless the Death Guard seize the initiative. The Death Guard will attempt to seize the initiative, and if they fail the first time, they will use a command point in order to re-roll it. So here's the first roll for seize the initiative, and the Death Guard fail, so they will go from 6 command points down to 5 in order to re-roll it. And the re-roll, and they fail again. So the Ultramarines will go first. Let's go into Ultramarines Turn 1. Going into Ultramarines Turn 1, they need to draw 3 objective cards. First is Blood and Guts. Score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed during the fight phase of this turn. If 3 or more enemy units were destroyed during the fight phase of this turn, score D3 victory points instead. The second tactical objective card is Defend Objective 4. Score 2 victory points if you control Objective Marker 4 at the end of 2 consecutive turns. Objective Marker 4 is right over here, next to Death Guard territory, right next to this squad of Poxwalkers. And the third tactical objective card is No Mercy, No Respite. Score 1 victory point if at least 1 enemy unit was destroyed and or failed a morale test this turn. If 3 or more units were destroyed and or failed morale tests, score D3 victory points instead. Going into the movement phase for Ultramarines Turn 1, this Land Raider is going to move up the board 10 inches towards those Death Guard. The Land Raider will end its movement right here. Thanks to this ruin in the middle of the board, the Ultramarines Land Raider is unable to see the Poxwalkers or any of the other Death Guard models, but they also cannot see him. So this Land Raider will not have any targets in the next shooting phase, but it will also be difficult for him to be targeted. This tactical squad, the last cannon will stay still, but the Sergeant and the 3 regular Marines are going to reposition so that next turn they can be better positioned in this ruin. And they will finish their movement right here. This tactical squad, the last cannon will stay still, while the bolters will move up the board in order to sit on objective marker 5. And they will finish their movement right here. The Knight Errant is going to move up the board 12 inches. And he will finish his movement right here. This tactical squad is going to remain still. And finally, this Repulsor is going to move up the board 10 inches towards the Death Guard. And the Repulsor will finish its movement right here. Going into the Ultramarines shooting phase of Turn 1, we'll start with the Knight Errant, who is going to fire his thermal cannon into the Land Raider, and the Land Raider is within 18 inches. And the Knight Errant will fire his Heavy Stubber and his Iron Storm missile pod into this squad of Poxwalkers. We will start with a thermal cannon, which is D6 shots. getting 4, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits, and the Ultramarines will use one of their command points to re-roll the 2, which still misses. 3s to wound, getting 3 wounds, and these are -4 AP, so the Land Raider will only have a 6-up armor save, which he passes 2, and the Death Guard will use 1 command point in order to attempt to re-roll the other one, which passes. So the Death Guard Land Raider passed 3 6-up armor saves. Heavy Stubber into the Poxwalkers, 3 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds, 2 Disgustingly Resilience, and both passed. Finally, for the Iron Storm Missile Pod into the same Poxwalker squad, D6 shots, getting 5, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 4 wounds. 2 damage apiece, so these will have to be done one at a time. 5-up Disgustingly Resilient, so 1 goes down. Second shot, 5-up Resilient, a second Poxwalker goes down. Third shot, 5-up, a third Poxwalker goes down. And fourth shot, 5-up, and a 4th Poxwalker goes down. This tactical squad, Last Cannon into the Chaos Land Raider, hitting on a 3 and fails to hit. Next, the Ultramarines Repulsor is going to fire. It will shoot its last Talon and its 2 Crackstorm grenade launchers into the Fetid Bloat Drone, and it will shoot everything else at this squad of Poxwalkers over there. Starting with the 2 Crackstorm grenade launchers, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 5s, failing to wound. Now the last Talon will shoot, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 3s, and getting 2 wounds. The Bloat Drone will take 5-up invulnerable saves, and it passes 1, but 1 goes through. The one that goes through will do D6 damage, and it'll do 6 damage. 6 Disgustingly Resilient rolls, and passes 1. So the Bloat Drone will go from 10 wounds down to 5. Now for the shots onto the Poxwalkers, starting with the 3 Stormbolters, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 4 wounds. Because they're sitting in the crater, they do have a 6-up armor save, and they pass 1. 3 Disgustingly Resilient, and they pass 1 more, so 2 Poxwalkers will go down. Next will be the Iron Hail Heavy Stubber, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 3s, getting no wounds. Now for the Twin Heavy Bolter, hitting on 3s, getting 6 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 4 wounds. The Twin Heavy Bolter is -1 AP, so the Poxwalkers will not have an armor save. So Disgustingly Resilient, and they fail all 4. So 4 more Poxwalkers will go down, leaving 4 left. This tactical squad will fire next. 2 bolt guns are in 24-inch range of the heavily injured Poxwalker squad. So 2 bolt guns into that Poxwalker squad. The last cannon is going to target that Land Raider. 2 bolt guns first, hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, failing to wound. Now for the last cannon, hitting on a 3, and it fails to hit. Finally, this last cannon is going to shoot at that Chaos Land Raider, hitting on a 3, and it hits, wounding on a 3, and it fails to wound. That is it for the Ultramarine shooting phase. They have no one within charge range, so we will move right through the Ultramarines assault phase into the morale phase. And there are no morale checks because the only models that were taken off this turn were Poxwalkers, who are mindless and therefore do not need to take morale checks. Taking a look at the tactical objective cards, the Ultramarines did not score any victory points this turn, and they will toss defend objective 4. Going into Death Guard turn 1, just a reminder that the Death Guard have 4 command points left, and the Ultramarines have 1 command point left. Taking a look at the tactical objective cards for the Death Guard, the first one is Spread Contagion. When this tactical objective is generated, nominate one of your Death Guard characters, score 1 victory point if this character is still alive at the end of the game. The Death Guard will nominate their Demon Prince. The second is Hold the Line, score 1 victory point if you have at least 3 units completely within your deployment zone and your opponent has no models within your deployment zone at the end of your turn. This objective cannot be achieved on your first turn. And the third tactical objective card is Secure Objective 3. Score 1 victory point if you control Objective Marker 3 at the end of your turn. And objective marker number 3 is right here in the Ultramarines deployment zone, currently being held by a group of tactical marines. Going into the Death Guard movement phase, this group of Poxwalkers is going to move up the board 4 inches to better control this objective. And they are going to declare an advance in order to be in the ruin, getting 5 inches. And so they will end their movement right here, all fully within the ruin. This Land Raider is going to move backwards and away from this Night Titan. Right to there. This bloat drone is going to move 8 inches over this direction to be out of line of sight of the repulsor. And it will finish its movement here. The Demon Prince is going to move 12 inches up the board towards the Ultramarines repulsor. And he will finish his movement here. This Poxwalker squad will remain still. This Poxwalker squad is going to move up the board 4 inches to better control objective marker number 4. And they will finish their movement here. This Land Raider is also going to back up in order to get a better shot onto the Ultramarines repulsor. And he will finish his movement here. Going into the Death Guard turn 1 psychic phase, the Demon Prince of Nurgle is going to cast Smite onto the Ultramarines repulsor, needing a 5, and it passes, doing D3 mortal wounds, doing 3. So the repulsor will go from 16 wounds down to 13. Going into the shooting phase for the Death Guard, we'll start with this Land Raider, who is going to fire his twin heavy bolter into this squad of tactical marines in the middle of the Ultramarines deployment zone, and it's going to fire both of its twin last cannons into the Night Titan. Starting with the twin heavy bolter, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds, 4 up armor, passes 1, and 1 tactical marine will go down. Now for the 2 twin last cannons into the Knight Errant, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. The Death Guard will use a command point to re-roll one of those 2s, and the re-roll, which still fails to hit. Wounding on 3s, getting no wounds. This Land Raider is going to shoot its twin heavy bolter into this middle tactical squad, which it can see, and it will fire both of its twin last cannons into the repulsor. Starting with the twin heavy bolter, hitting on 3s, getting 5 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 5 wounds, 4 up armor save, and they fail 3. The Ultramarines will use their last command point in an attempt to re-roll the 3. And here's the re-roll, and it saves. So the other 2 regular Marines will go down. Now for the 2 twin last cannons from the Chaos Land Raider into the Ultramarines repulsor, hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and it fails to wound. And that is all for the Death Guard shooting phase. So moving into the Death Guard assault phase, there is 1 charge to declare. The Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings will declare a charge into the Ultramarines repulsor. The repulsor will overwatch, starting with the last Talon. 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and it fails to wound. 2 Crackstorm grenade launchers hitting on 6s, 1 hits, wounding on a 4, and it wounds. 3 up armor from the Demon Prince, and it fails to save. It does D3 damage, 1 damage, so 1 disgustingly resilient, and the Demon Prince passes. Twin heavy bolter next, hitting on 6s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 5s, fails to wound. Iron Hail heavy stubber hitting on 6s, fails to hit. 3 storm bolters finally in rapid fire range, 12 shots, hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit. Wounding on a 5, and it fails to wound. Now for the charge range, we will subtract 2 inches from the charge distance thanks to the repulsor field that the repulsor has. Getting a 7-inch charge after subtracting for the repulsor field, which is enough to put the Demon Prince into combat. Going into the Death Guard fight phase, we just have the 1 combat to resolve, so starting with the Demon Prince since he charged. 7 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s, 6s generate additional attacks. Getting 5 hits so far with 2 1s to re-roll, and here comes the re-rolls. And 1 more attack goes through, but no additional attacks. 6 hits, wounding on 5s. Getting no wounds. Now the repulsor will hit back, 6 attacks, hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and fails to wound. And that's the end of the Death Guard assault phase. So moving into the morale phase, there's just 1 unit to resolve, and that's these tactical marines. They did lose 3 guys. The sergeant is leadership 8, and so if they roll a 6, they fail. 5 or less, they pass. And they pass. So that will be the end of Death Guard turn 1. The Death Guard are going to toss secure objective 3 since it is in the Ultramarines deployment zone, and they will hold on to the other 2. The Death Guard have not scored any victory points yet, and neither side has achieved first blood so far. Going into Ultramarines turn 2, a reminder that the Death Guard have 3 command points left and the Ultramarines have 0. The Ultramarines need to draw 1 new tactical objective card, and they get Master of the Warp. Score 1 victory point if you manifested or denied a psychic power during this turn. If you manifested or denied 3 or more psychic powers, score D3 victory points instead. Well, that will be thrown away at the end of this turn. Going into the Ultramarines movement phase, we'll start with this tactical squad. The Sergeant is going to move back a little bit so that he is within coherency with the last cannon. This repulsor, since it can fly, is going to move 10 inches over in this direction and out of combat. Right to there. The Knight Titan is going to move up and around 12 inches so that he can engage the Demon Prince in the ensuing assault phase. This tactical marine squad will stay still. The bolt guns in this tactical marine squad are going to move up onto the ruin. Right to there. And finally, this Land Raider is going to move up the board 10 inches. Going into the Ultramarines turn 2 shooting phase, the Knight Titan is going to do exactly what it did last turn. It's going to fire its thermal cannon into the Land Raider, which is still within 18 inches thanks to its repositioning, and it will fire its Iron Storm missile pod and its heavy stubber into this squad of Poxwalkers hiding in the ruin. Starting with the thermal cannon, D6 shots, gets 6 shots. Hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. Chaos Land Raider will have a 6-up armor save, and it passes 1. And they are going to use a command point and go from 3 to 2 in order to re-roll the 4. And the re-roll passed. Oh my goodness. So only 1 goes through. However, does 2d6 damage take the highest. So 2 damage. So the Chaos Land Raider will go from 16 wounds down to 14. Next will be the Heavy Stubber from the Knight Titan onto the Poxwalkers, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound. Because they're in the ruin, the Poxwalkers will have a 6-up save, which they fail, and it's 1 damage, so 1 disgustingly resilient roll, which they pass. Finally, the Iron Storm missile pod will fire, D6 shots, getting 3 shots. Hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. It's -1 AP, so the Poxwalkers will not get a save for being in the ruin, and it's 2 damage apiece, so these will be done separately. So the first one, disgustingly resilient, 1 guy goes down. The second shot, second Poxwalker goes down. And finally the third shot, and a third Poxwalker goes down. So now there are 3 Poxwalkers left in this squad. Next, this tactical squad will fire. The 4 bolt guns are in 24-inch range of the squad of Poxwalkers, so the bolt guns will fire at that squad, and the last cannon will take a shot at the Chaos Land Raider. Starting with the 4 bolt guns, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. 6-up save from the ruin, all 3 go through, and these are 1 damage apiece, so 3 disgustingly resilient rolls. And all 3 fail. So the final 3 Poxwalkers will go down, and that is first blood for the Ultramarines. Finally, the last cannon will shoot at the Chaos Land Raider, hitting on a 3, and it hits. Wounding on a 3, and it wounds. Land Raider will have a 5-up armor save, and it passes. This tactical squad is going to fire next. It will shoot its last cannon at the Chaos Land Raider, and it will shoot a bolt gun full range into the Demon Prince. Starting with the bolt gun, hitting on a 3, and it hits. Wounding on a 5, and it wounds. Demon Prince has a 2-up armor save, and it passes the wound. Now the last cannon hits on a 3, wounds on a 3. Chaos Land Raider will have a 5-up armor save, which it fails, and it will do D6 damage. It'll do 6 damage. So the Land Raider will go from 14 wounds down to 8. Next, the repulsor is going to shoot. He will fire his last talon into the fetid bloat drone, which he can see. He will shoot the 2 crackstorm grenade launchers into the demon prince, and then he will fire the iron hail heavy stubber, the twin heavy bolter, and the 3 storm bolters into that squad of 4 poxwalkers. Starting with the 2 crackstorm grenade launchers from the repulsor into the demon prince, hitting on 3s, failing to hit. The last talon from the repulsor into the fetid bloat drone, hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and it wounds. 5-up invulnerable save from the bloat drone, and it fails. D6 damage, and it'll do 5 damage. 5 disgustingly resilience for the bloat drone, and it fails all 5. And that takes the final 5 wounds off of the bloat drone, and he is removed. Next, we will do the twin heavy bolter from the repulsor into the poxwalkers. 6 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. No armor save since it's -1 AP, so 2 disgustingly resilience for the poxwalkers, and they pass 1. And so 1 more poxwalker will go down. We will then do the iron hail heavy stubber. 3 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and it fails to wound. 3 storm bolters, which are not in rapid fire range, so 6 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. 6-up armor save for the poxwalkers, they fail both, and 2 disgustingly resilient rolls, and they fail both of those as well. So 2 more poxwalkers will go down, leaving 1 poxwalker left. This tactical will fire next. The 4 bolt guns can see that poxwalker squad full range, so 4 bolt gunshots into them, and the last cannon will take a shot at the Chaos Land Raider. 4 bolt gunshots, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. No save, so 2 disgustingly resilient rolls, and they pass 1. So 1 poxwalker will go down. Then the last cannon shot from the tactical marine onto the Chaos Land Raider, hitting on a 3, and it hits, wounding on a 3, and it fails to wound. Finally, the Ultramarines Land Raider is going to fire. It will shoot its storm bolter into these poxwalkers, which it can see this guy, and it will shoot everything else into this Land Raider. The Land Raider is in rapid fire range, so 4 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 4s, getting 1 wound. No save, but a 5-up disgustingly resilient, which is passed. Now for the twin heavy bolter into the Chaos Land Raider. 6 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 5 hits, wounding on 5s, getting 3 wounds. -1 AP, so the Chaos Land Raider will have a 3-up armor save, which it passes all 3. Now for the 2 twin last cannons, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 3s, getting no wounds. Moving into the Ultramarines assault phase, the Knight Errant will declare charge into the Demon Prince. Here's the charge range, and he's in. Going into the Ultramarines fight phase, the Knight Errant will attack first. He is going to use his Thunderstrike Gauntlet. 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 2, and it wounds. 5-up invulnerable save from the Demon Prince, which he passes. And because of the separating plate, on a 4+, a mortal wound will reflect back onto the Knight Titan. And it does. So the Knight Titan will go from 24 down to 23 wounds. Then the Demon Prince is going to attack back. 7 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. 6s will generate additional attacks. All 7 hit and getting 2 additional attacks in the process. Here's the 2 additional attacks, and both of those hit. 9 hits out of 7 attacks, wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound. The Knight Titan will have a 5-up armor save, which he fails, and will take 2 damage from that, going from 23 down to 21 wounds. Going into the Ultramarines Turn 2 morale phase, there are no morale tests to take, as the only models that were lost were Poxwalkers. So that is the end of Ultramarines Turn 2. Looking at the tactical objective cards, the Ultramarines will toss Master the Warp, since that is impossible for them to achieve. But this turn, the Ultramarines did get first blood, getting them a victory point. They also completed No Mercy, No Respite for killing 2 enemy units. They almost destroyed a third, but the one Poxwalker survived, so they will get 1 victory point for that. And the Ultramarines are still working on Blood and Guts, which is destroy an enemy unit during the fight phase. And they will keep that one. So at the end of Ultramarines Turn 2, the Ultramarines are currently leading 2 victory points to 0. Going into Death Guard Turn 2, a reminder that the Death Guard have 2 command points left and the Ultramarines have 0. The Death Guard need to draw 1 new tactical objective card, which will be Death Begets Life. Whilst this tactical objective is active, keep a tally of the number of enemy models you kill in each of your turns. Score 1 victory point if you kill at least 7 enemy models this turn, and 1 additional victory point for every 7 models killed in excess of this, up to a maximum of 7 victory points. Starting in the Death Guard movement phase, the Demon Prince of Nurgle is going to fall back from the Night Titan over to this side of the building, so that it's out of sight of the repulsor and anyone inside of it should they disembark next turn. Right to there. Next, everyone embarked inside of this Land Raider is going to disembark. They will finish their disembarkation right here. Then the Plague Marines are going to move up the board 5 inches. The Plague Surgeon will move up 5 inches. And the Lord of Contagion will move up 4 inches. And they will all finish their movement here. Next, the Chaos Land Raider is going to move up the board a little bit to be closer to the enemy deployment zone. And here's where the Chaos Land Raider will end up. This lone Poxwalker will stay still. This squad of Poxwalkers will stay still. This Chaos Land Raider is going to move up to 10 inches over in this direction to get a better shot onto the repulsor. And here's where this Chaos Land Raider will end its movement. Going into the Psychic phase, for Death Guard Turn 2, the Demon Prince of Nurgle is going to cast Curse of the Leper onto this squad of Tactical Marines, needing a 7, and it passes. So we will roll 7 dice, and any 5s or 6s will cause a mortal wound to the unit. And only 1 mortal wound. The Death Guard will use a command point, going from 2 command points to 1 left, in order to re-roll one of the failed. And it still fails, so only 1 mortal wound, taking down a regular Tactical Marine. Moving into the Death Guard shooting phase, we will start with this Plague Marine squad. The 3 plasma guns, the Sergeant and the 2 other regular Plague Marines with plasma guns, will fire rapid fire into the Knight Errant with supercharged shots. 1 bolt gun is in range of this tactical squad at 24 inches, and so they'll fire a shot into this tactical squad. And the other 3 bolt guns from the Marines in the back will fire rapid fire into the Knight Errant. So starting with the 1 bolt gun from the Plague Marine squad onto this tactical squad, hitting on a 3, getting a hit, wounding on a 5, and fails to wound. The 3 bolt guns into the Knight Errant, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 6s, getting no wounds. Finally, the supercharged shots from the Plague Marines into the Knight Errant. We have to do these one at a time. So starting with the Champion, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. The first regular Marine hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. And the second Marine hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit and 1 miss, but no 1s. 5 hits, wounding on 4s, getting 3 wounds, and the Death Guard will use their last command point to re-roll the 3. And it still fails to wound. The Knight Errant has a 5-up invulnerable save, and fails 2. And because they're supercharged, they are 2 damage apiece, so the Knight Errant will go from 21 wounds down to 17. Next, the Plague Surgeon, who is just within 12 inches, is going to fire a bolt pistol into the Night Titan. Hitting on a 3, gets a hit, wounding on a 6, and fails to wound. The Chaos Land Raider is going to shoot his twin heavy bolter into this Tactical Marine squad, and the Land Raider will fire both of its twin last cannons into the Knight Errant. Starting with the twin heavy bolter, hitting on 4s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 4 wounds, and the Marines will have a 4-up armor save, and they pass all 4. Now for the 2 twin last cannons into the Knight Errant, hitting on 4s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds, 5 up invulnerable save, and passes both. Now for this Chaos Land Raider, he's going to shoot his twin heavy bolter into these 2 tactical marines, and it will shoot its 2 twin last cannons into the Ultramarine repulsor. Starting with the twin heavy bolter, 6 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 5 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds, and the Marines will have a 4-up armor save, and they fail 2, so this squad is wiped out. Now for the 2 twin last cannons into the repulsor, hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, getting a wound, and the repulsor will have a 6-up armor save, which it fails, and this will do d6 damage, and it will do 4, which will knock the repulsor from 13 wounds down to 9. That is it for the Death Guard turn 2 shooting phase. There are no charges to declare, and there are no morale tests to take, as this squad only lost 1 guy, and so they cannot fail their morale check. Taking a look at the Death Guard tactical objectives, the Death Guard currently have a tally of 3 enemy models that were killed for Death Begets Life. The Death Guard have now completed Hold the Line for having 3 units completely within their deployment zone, and we could just include these 3 right here, the Land Raider, the Plague Surgeon, and the Lord of Contagion, but also this Poxwalker and this Land Raider are fully within, and there are no enemy units in the Death Guard deployment zone. And the Death Guard are still in the process of completing Spread Contagion, so they will hold on to that. So at the end of Death Guard turn 2, the Death Guard have 1 victory point, and the Ultramarines have 2 victory points. Going into Ultramarines turn 3, a reminder that both sides have 0 command points left. The Ultramarines also need to draw 2 new tactical objective cards. The first is Scour the Skies, score 1 victory point if at least 1 enemy unit that can fly was destroyed during this turn. And the second is No Prisoners, score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed during your turn. If between 3 and 5 enemy units were destroyed during your turn, score d3 victory points instead. If 6 or more enemy units were destroyed during your turn, score d3 plus 3 victory points instead. Going into the movement phase for Ultramarines turn 3, we will start with this Land Raider moving 10 inches up the board towards the Death Guard deployment zone. And the Ultramarines Land Raider will finish its movement right here. This tactical Marine squad will stay still. This tactical squad will stay still. The Knight Errant is going to move 12 inches over towards these Plague Marines, and the Knight Errant will be just over an inch away. Finally, everyone embarked inside this repulsor is going to disembark. They will all end up right here in front of the repulsor. Next, the Hellblasters and the Primaris Lieutenant are going to move up the board 6 inches towards the Chaos deployment zone, and the Chapter Master is going to move up 5 inches. And they will all end their movement right here. Finally, this repulsor is going to move this way a little bit in order to get a better shot on those Poxwalkers. And he will finish his movement right here. Going into the Ultramarines turn 3 shooting phase, we will start with this tactical squad shooting everything it has into the Demon Prince. Starting with 3 bolt guns from the Sergeant and the 2 regular Marines that are left. 6 shots hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Wounding on 5s, getting 3 wounds. The Demon Prince has a 2-up armor save and passes all 3. 1 shot from the last cannon, hitting on a 3, and it fails to hit. The Knight is going to shoot its Iron Storm missile pod at that lone Poxwalker. He will shoot his Heavy Stubber into the Plague Marines in front of him, and the Thermal Cannon into the Demon Prince. Starting with the Thermal Cannon from the Knight Titan into the Demon Prince. D6 shots, and gets 3 shots. Hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Wounding on 3s, and gets 1 wound. The Demon Prince will have a 5-up invulnerable save, which he fails. And the Knight Titan is within 18 inches, so d6 damage, but roll 2 dice and take the highest. And that will be 3 damage. 3 disgustingly resilient rolls, and fails all 3. So the Demon Prince will go from 8 wounds down to 5. Now for the Iron Storm missile pod onto the lone Poxwalker. D6 shots. 1 shot, hits on a 3, and fails to hit. Finally, the Heavy Stubber from the Knight Titan into the Plague Marines. Hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 5s, and fails to wound. This tactical squad is going to shoot 2 bolt guns that can see into the Poxwalkers, and the last cannon is going to fire into the Chaos Land Raider. Starting with the 2 bolt guns, hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit. Wounding on a 3, gets a wound. No save, so disgustingly resilient, and he fails. So 1 Poxwalker will go down. Now the last cannon into the Chaos Land Raider, hitting on a 3, and fails to hit. The repulsor is going to shoot his last Talon into the Chaos Land Raider, and then is going to fire everything else into that Poxwalker squad. Starting with the last Talon into the Chaos Land Raider, 2 shots hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and it wounds. Chaos Land Raider has a 5-up armor save, and it fails. This will do d6 damage, and it will do 3 damage. So this Chaos Land Raider will drop from 16 wounds down to 13. Now for everything from the repulsor into those Poxwalkers. 2 Crackstorm grenade launchers hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit. Wounding on a 2, and it wounds. No save, so d3 damage, and it will do 1 damage. So 1 disgustingly resilient roll, which fails, so 1 Poxwalker will go down. Iron Hail Heavy Stubber, 3 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. 2 disgustingly resilient rolls, and both fail. So 2 more Poxwalkers go down, leaving 5 left. 3 Stormbolters, 6 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. 3 disgustingly resilient rolls, and 2 more go down. Finally, the Twin Heavy Bolter, 6 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 6 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 5 wounds. No save, so 5 disgustingly resilient rolls, and 3 fail, which is the final 3 Poxwalkers. And so the rest of this squad is removed. Next, this Land Raider is going to fire. It will shoot its Storm Bolter at 24-inch range into the Poxwalker, and it will shoot the Twin Heavy Bolter and the 2 Twin Last Cannons into the Land Raider. Starting with the Storm Bolter into the Poxwalker, 2 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound. Poxwalker is in a crater, so he will have a 6-up armor save, which he fails, and it's 1 damage, so 1 disgustingly resilient, which he also fails, and that is the last Poxwalker in that squad. Now for the Twin Heavy Bolter. Into the Chaos Land Raider. 6 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Wounding on 5s, getting 2 wounds. Land Raider will have a 3-up armor save, and he passes both. Now for the 2 Twin Last Cannons into the Chaos Land Raider. 4 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. Chaos Land Raider will have a 5-up armor save and passes 2. And this will do d6 damage, and it will do 3 damage, which drops the Chaos Land Raider from 13 wounds down to 10. Next will be the squad of Hellblasters firing rapid-fire, supercharged shots into the Land Raider. Because they're supercharged, the hit rolls will have to be done separately. Starting with the Hellblaster Sergeant, 2 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Regular Hellblaster 1, hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit, and re-rolling the 1 thanks to the Chapter Master, getting another hit. Hellblaster number 2, getting 2 hits. Hellblaster 3, getting 2 misses, but re-rolling thanks to the Chapter Master. And the reroll, 1 hit, but 1 Hellblaster will go down. Hellblaster number 4, getting 1 hit, 1 miss, re-rolling the miss thanks to the Chapter Master, and gets another hit. Hellblaster number 5 gets 2 hits, and Hellblaster number 6 gets 1 hit, 1 miss, and re-rolling the miss gets another hit. So 13 out of 14 shots hit, but the 1 miss did result in a dead Hellblaster. 13 supercharged hits, wounding on 4s, and a cocked dice, and that is 8 wounds. The Land Raider will have a 6-up armor save, and passes 1, fails 7. And because it's supercharged, they do 2 damage apiece, and so that is 14 damage that the Chaos Land Raider suffers, and it only has 10 wounds left. So this Land Raider will be removed. Chaos Land Raider explodes on a 6, and it does not explode. And everyone inside the Chaos Land Raider has disembarked, and now the Land Raider is removed. So now the Primaris Lieutenant is going to fire a bolt pistol at the Plague Marines, hitting on a 3, and gets a hit, wounding on a 5, and fails to wound. The Bolt Storm Gauntlet from the Chapter Master into the Plague Marines. 3 shots, hitting on 2s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 5s, re-rolling the 1s thanks to Lieutenant, and the re-roll, so 3 wounds. No AP, so 3 up armor saves, and all 3 pass. And that will be it for the Ultramarine shooting phase. Moving into the Ultramarines assault phase, there are a couple of charges to declare. The Hellblasters will declare a charge into the Plague Marines. The Primaris Lieutenant will declare a charge into the Plague Marines. The Chapter Master will declare a charge into the Plague Marines. The Knight Titan will declare a charge into the Plague Marines. We will start over here with the Knight Errant into the Plague Marines. Plague Marines will overwatch. The plasma guns will not use supercharged shots. 6 shots from the plasma guns hitting on 6s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 5s, and 2 wounds. 2 5-up invulnerable saves, and 1 goes through. So the Knight Errant will drop from 17 wounds down to 16. 4 bolt guns, rapid fire, hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit, and wounding on a 6, and it fails to wound. Charge distance for the Knight Errant, 8 inches, is more than enough. And the Knight Errant will end up here within an inch of the Plague Marines, but making sure to stay more than 3 inches away from the Lord of Contagion so that he cannot heroically intervene. Moving over to this combat, the Plague Marines will fire Overwatch. We will start with the 3 plasma guns, and they will be supercharged because that way they can wound on 2s if they hit, and at 2 damage apiece they will remove an entire Hellblaster. Starting with the Plague Champion, hitting on 6s, getting no hits. The first Plague Marine, no hits, and will go down. And the second Plague Marine with a plasma gun, needing 6s, and gets a 6. Wounding on a 2, and it wounds. A 6-up armor save for a Hellblaster, and he passes. And now the 4 bolt guns, hitting on 6s, getting 2 hits. Wounding on 4s, getting no wounds. And the charge distance for the Hellblasters, double 1s, and that's not enough. Charge distance for the Chapter Master, getting 7 inches, and that will be enough to make it into combat if he survives the Overwatch, of course. So 2 plasma guns now, but they will not fire supercharged because the Chapter Master is toughness 5. Hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, fails to wound. 4 bolt guns, hitting on 6s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 5s, getting a wound. 2-up armor save from the Chapter Master, and he passes. And so now the Primaris Lieutenant will charge in. No Overwatch since the Chapter Master is already in, and he gets 6 inches. And since the Lieutenant needs to go around the Hellblasters, that will not be enough to get him in. And the Chapter Master is just outside of 3 inches, so the Plague Surgeon will not be able to heroically intervene. Going into the Ultramarines fight phase, we will start with the Knight Errant attacking the Plague Marines. He will use his Titanic feat, so he will have 12 attacks instead of 4, hitting on 3s, getting 8 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 6 wounds. The Plague Marines will have a 5-up armor save, and they pass 2. And Titanic feat are D3 damage apiece, so these will have to be done separately. The first one will do 3 damage, 3 disgustingly resilient rolls, and 1 Plague Marine will go down. Re-rolling the 1 thanks to the Plague Surgeon, which would have passed, but the 2 still would have failed. The second attack, D3 damage, does 2 disgustingly resilient rolls, and a second Plague Marine will go down. The third attack will do 3 damage, 3 disgustingly resilient rolls, and a third Plague Marine will go down, barely. And the fourth attack will also do 3 damage, 3 disgustingly resilient, and a 4th Plague Marine will go down. And we will remove the icon, which will leave the champion and the 2 Plague Marines with plasma guns. The Ultramarines Chapter Master will then attack next, since he also charged this turn. He has 5 attacks, and he will use the melee form of the Bolt Storm Gauntlet. Hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, getting 1 hit so far, but re-rolling the 2 1s. And getting 1 more hit. The Chapter Master cannot re-roll the 2s because re-rolls happen before modifiers. Wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s thanks to the Lieutenant still being within 6 inches. And so far failing to wound, but re-rolling the 1. and gets a wound. 1 6-up armor save, which fails, and this will do D3 damage, and it will do 3 damage. 3 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, and 1 regular Marine will go down. Now the non-charging units get to attack. We'll do this Plague Marine squad first, and they would pile in, of course. And so the 4 regular Marines will attack first, 1 attack each, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 5s, re-rolling 1s thanks to being plague weapons, re-rolling the 1, getting no wounds. Now the Plague Champion will attack with his Power Fist, hitting on 4s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound. The Plague Champion will take a 4-up Iron Halo save and fails, and it will do D3 damage. It'll do 1 damage thanks to the Chapter Master's Warlord trait of Iron Resolve. On a 6, he will ignore the wound, and he does not. So the Chapter Master will drop from 7 wounds, thanks to his Warlord trait, down to 6. Lastly, we will do this combat over here, and we will start with the Champion and his Power Fist on the Knight Titan. 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, getting no hits. Now for the 2 attacks from the regular Marines with their Plague Knives onto the Knight Titan, hitting on 3s, and both hit. Should have reversed the order in which I was doing things because then everyone would have hit. Wounding on 6s, re-rolling 1s thanks to being plague weapons and 1 wound. Knight Errant has a 3-up armor save, which he passes. Going into the morale phase for Ultramarines Turn 3, we will start with this Plague Marine squad. The Plague Champion has a leadership of 8, and they pass their morale check. Over here with this Plague Marine squad, they cannot fail since their champion has a leadership of 8, and they only lost 2 guys. And this Hellblaster squad, even though they are within 6 inches of the icon, and therefore have to subtract 1 from their leadership, because they only lost 1 guy, they cannot fail their morale check. Taking a look at the Ultramarines tactical objective cards, the Ultramarines still have not gotten Blood and Guts because they have to destroy an enemy unit during the fight phase, and all of the Death Guard units destroyed this turn was during the shooting phase. The Ultramarines have not yet completed Scour the Skies because the Demon Prince of Nurgle is still alive, but the Ultramarines did complete No Prisoners, and they did destroy, or finish destroying, 3 enemy units, so they do get D3 victory points for that. And here's the roll, and they get 3 victory points. So at the end of Ultramarines Turn 3, the Ultramarines have 5 victory points, and the Death Guard have 1 victory point. Going into Death Guard Turn 3, the Death Guard need to draw 1 new tactical objective card, and they get Disgusting Devotions. Whilst this tactical objective is active, keep tally of the number of successful Disgustingly Resilient rolls you make in each turn. Score 1 victory point if you successfully made at least 7 Disgustingly Resilient rolls during this turn. Going into the Death Guard Turn 3 movement phase, we will start with these Plague Marines, who are going to fall back away from the Knight Errant, and now they are over an inch away. Next, the Lord of Contagion is going to move up 4 inches to be just over an inch away from the Knight Errant. The Plague Surgeon is going to move up a couple inches behind, and they will end their movement there. The Land Raider is going to move up a couple of inches, and the Chaos Land Raider will end its movement here. The Demon Prince of Nurgle is going to regenerate 1 wound thanks to its Warlord trait Tainted Regeneration, bringing it back up to 6. The Demon Prince of Nurgle is then going to move closer to the Tactical Marines. Right here, making sure to stay more than an inch away. This Lord of Contagion is going to move 4 inches up the board towards the Chapter Master. Finally, this Plague Surgeon is going to move a couple inches to be closer to the action. Right to there. That is the end of the Death Guard movement phase. Going into the Death Guard psychic phase, we will have the Demon Prince of Nurgle cast Smite into the Tactical Marines. He needs a 5, and he gets it, and it will do D3 mortal wounds, doing 1 mortal wound. So 1 regular Tactical Marine will go down. Going into the Death Guard shooting phase, we will start with this Plague Surgeon shooting a bolt pistol into the Hellblasters, needing a 3 to hit, and it fails to hit. Plague Surgeon over here shooting a bolt pistol into the Knight Errant on a 3, and it hits. He needs a 6 to wound, and it fails to wound. Finally, this Chaos Land Raider will fire its twin heavy bolter and its 2 twin last cannons into the Knight Errant. We will start with the twin heavy bolter. 6 shots, hitting on 4s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 5s, and getting 3 wounds. -1 AP, so the Knight Errant will have a 4-up armor save, and he passes 2. So the Knight Errant, because he failed 1, will go from 16 wounds down to 15. Now for the 2 twin last cannons into the Knight Errant. 4 shots, hitting on 4s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. The Knight Errant will take 5 up invulnerable saves and will pass 1, and it will do d6 damage and will do 5 damage, which will take the Knight Errant from 15 wounds down to 10. Going into the Death Guard turn 3 assault phase, we have 2 charges to declare. Lord of Contagion will declare a charge into the Knight Errant, and this Lord of Contagion will declare a charge into the Chapter Master. This Chapter Master cannot overwatch since he is already locked in combat, so the charge range, more than enough. And this Lord of Contagion is now in combat with the Chapter Master. Moving over to the Knight Errant, he will overwatch against the Lord of Contagion, starting with the Thermal Cannon. D6 shots, getting 2 shots, hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and it wounds. It is within half distance, so 2d6 for damage, taking the highest, and it will do 6 damage. So 6 5-up Disgustingly Resilient rolls and passes 2, which takes the Lord of Contagion from 6 starting wounds down to 2. Next will be the Heavy Stubber, 3 shots, hitting on 6s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 5s, no wounds, and then d6 shots from the Iron Storm Missile Pod, gets 4 shots, hitting on 6s, getting no hits. And the charge range for the Lord of Contagion is more than enough. And he is now in combat. And there is actually a 3rd charge to declare, which is the Demon Prince against the Tactical Marines. Overwatch from the Tactical Marines. 2 bolt guns in rapid fire range, need 6s to hit, getting 1 hit, and needing a 5 to wound, and it wounds. The Demon Prince will take his 2-up armor save and fails. 1 damage, so 1 Disgustingly Resilient, which he passes. Finally, the last cannon, overwatching into the Demon Prince, needing a 6 to hit, and fails to hit. Charge range for the Demon Prince is more than enough. And we're going to start with this combat in the fight phase. So 7 attacks from the Demon Prince of Nurgle, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, 6s generate additional attacks. Getting 7 hits so far with 2 additional attacks. Getting 9 hits total out of 7 attacks. Wounding on 3s, and getting 7 wounds. The Marines will have a 5-up armor save, and they pass 3, but fail 4, and so all of the Tactical Marines are killed off. The Demon Prince is then going to consolidate 3 inches towards the Knight Paladin because it is the closest visible enemy unit, right to there. This Lord of Contagion is now going to attack the Chapter Master. 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, 6s generate additional attacks, getting 3 hits. Wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s. Getting 2 wounds. The Chapter Master is going to pop the Force Field on his Armor Indomitus this turn for a 3-up invulnerable save, and passes both. So now the Lord of Contagion over here, 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, 6s generate additional attacks. Getting 4 hits. Wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s thanks to being a plague weapon. No wounds so far, but rerolling the 1, and still no wounds. So now that all the charging units have gone, this squad of Plague Marines is going to attack next, starting with the Power Fist from the Champion, hitting on 4s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and it wounds. 3-up invulnerable save, and the Chapter Master passes it. 4 Plague Knife attacks from the regular Plague Marines, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 wound so far, and re-rolling the 1, and fails to wound. So 1 2-up armor save, and the Chapter Master passes it. So the Chapter Master will now attack back against the Lord of Contagion, using the melee form of his Boltstorm Gauntlet. 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, and the 2 re-rolls, and getting 1 additional hit. Wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s thanks to being within 6 inches of the Lieutenant. And here's the 2 re-rolls, getting 2 more wounds. 4-up Cataphractii Invulnerable save from the Lord of Contagion, and he fails all 3. And these will do D3 damage apiece for a total of 4 damage. 5 up disgustingly resilient rolls, and he passes 3. And so this Lord of Contagion will go from 6 wounds down to 5. The Knight Errant is going to attack back against this Lord of Contagion using Titanic Feet, since now that he is down to 10 wounds, he is in a damaged state and is only hitting on 4s. And I don't want the Thunderstrike Gauntlet to cause an even more negative modifier to his already damaged hit rolls. So 12 attacks, hitting on 4s, getting 7 hits, wounding on 3s and a cocked dice, getting 4 wounds, 4 up save from the Lord of Contagion, and he passes all 4. Wow. And that is the end of the Death Guard assault phase, and there are no morale tests to take. So that is the end of Death Guard Turn 3. Taking a quick look at the tactical objective cards, wish that the Death Guard had been able to pass one more disgustingly resilient roll in order to get disgusting devotions, but they will hold on to that since they are one disgustingly resilient roll away from getting that victory point. They have now removed 7 Ultramarines models, and so they will count Death Begets Life as complete for 1 victory point, partly so that they can draw a new one next turn, because otherwise they'd be stuck with the 3 that they have. And the Demon Prince is still alive, so they're still working on Spread Contagion. So at the end of Death Guard Turn 3, the Death Guard have 2 victory points, and the Ultramarines have 5 victory points. Going into Ultramarines Turn 4, the Ultramarines need to draw 1 new tactical objective card, which will be Mission Critical Objective. When this tactical objective is generated, roll a d6, score 1 victory point if you control the corresponding objective marker. If the corresponding objective marker was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn, and you control it at the end of your turn, score d3 victory points instead. And that will be objective marker number 3, which is this one right here, where the tactical Marines were just killed by the Demon Prince of Nurgle. At the beginning of the Ultramarines movement phase, the Knight Errant is going to fall back away from the Death Guard Lord of Contagion and move 9 inches because of his damaged state towards the Demon Prince of Nurgle. And the Knight Errant will finish its move right here. Also, the Demon Prince regenerates 1 wound, thanks to Tainted Regeneration. The Chapter Master is going to fall back away from the Death Guard 5 inches. The Hellblasters are going to move up towards the Death Guard, and they will finish their movement here. The Primaris Lieutenant is going to move 6 inches towards the Lord of Contagion, and the Lieutenant will be just over an inch away. This Repulsor is going to move up a couple of inches, and actually, he's going to move over this way so that he has a much better shot on this group of Death Guard and the Chaos Land Raider. And finally, this Land Raider is going to move this way 10 inches, and the Land Raider will end its movement here, fully within the Death Guard deployment zone. And those tactical Marines are going to stay still. Going into the Ultramarines shooting phase for turn 4, the Knight Errant is going to try to pound the Demon Prince of Nurgle into a pulp. The Knight Errant will shoot everything it has into the Demon Prince, starting with the Thermal Cannon. D6 shots, getting 2 shots, needing 4s to hit, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and it wounds. The Demon Prince will have a 5-up invulnerable save, which it passes. Heavy Stubber next, 3 shots, hitting on 4s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 5, and it fails to wound. Iron Storm Missile Pod, D6 shots, getting 5 shots, hitting on 4s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound, 3-up armor save, and the Demon Prince passes. Primaris Lieutenant is going to fire a bolt pistol into the Lord of Contagion, hitting on a 3, and it hits, wounding on a 5, rerolling 1s, fails to wound. The 6 remaining Hellblasters will fire rapid fire into the Plague Marines using standard shots, hitting on 3s, re-rolling thanks to the Chapter Master being nearby, getting 7 hits to start, re-rolling the 5 misses, and all 12 hit. Wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s, with 6 wounds so far and 3 re-rolls, getting 1 more wound. And the Plasma Incinerators are -4 AP, so the Plague Marines will not get an armor save. So 7 disgustingly resilient rolls, and they pass 2, but fail 5. And so the 5 remaining Marines go down. I do apologize, I went back and looked at it, and there were 3 1s, which the Plague Surgeon allows to re-roll. They all would have failed anyways. So yes, that squad was completely wiped out. So now this Land Raider will fire. It's going to shoot its twin heavy bolter and its storm bolter into the Plague Surgeon, and both of its twin last cannons into this Land Raider, which is in range. Starting with the two twin last cannons, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 3s, getting no wounds. Next, we'll fire the storm bolter into the Plague Surgeon, hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 5, and failing to wound. Now the twin heavy bolter, 6 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 4s, getting 3 wounds, -1 AP, so 4 up armor save, and he fails 1, and it's 1 damage, so 5 up disgustingly resilient, re-rolling the 1 thanks to himself, and he still fails. So the Plague Surgeon will go from 4 wounds down to 3. Finally, the Repulsor will fire his last Talon into the Land Raider. The Repulsor will fire its twin heavy bolter and its 2 Crackstorm grenade launchers into the Plague Marines. And then the Repulsor will fire its 3 Storm bolters in rapid fire range and its Iron Hail Heavy Stubber into the Lord of Contagion. Starting with the Iron Hail Heavy Stubber, 3 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound, 3 up armor save, and it passes. 12 shots from the 3 storm bolters into the Lord of Contagion, hitting on 3s, getting 9 hits, wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound, and a 2 up armor save, which he passes. Now for the last Talon into the Land Raider, 2 shots hitting on 3s, both hit, wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound, 5 up armor save, and the Land Raider passes. 2 Crackstorm grenade launcher shots, hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and it wounds. 4 up armor save on the Plague Marine, which he passes. Finally, the twin heavy bolter, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 4s, getting no wounds. And that's it for the Ultramarine shooting phase, because the last cannon in this tactical squad does not have line of sight to anything, and the bolt guns are too far away to shoot. So moving right along into the Ultramarines assault phase, there are 3 charges to declare. First is the Knight Errant declaring a charge onto the Demon Prince. Second is the Primaris Lieutenant declaring a charge onto the Lord of Contagion. And third is the Hellblasters declaring a multi-charge onto the Lord of Contagion and the Plague Surgeon, with the Lord of Contagion being the primary target. The only overwatch is the Plague Surgeon's bolt pistol into the Hellblasters, hitting on a 6, and it fails to hit. So first, charge distance from the Lieutenant into the Lord of Contagion, and he's in. Luckily, he was not charging through a crater. Now the Hellblasters charge. 8 inches is more than enough. And here's where they end their charge move. Finally, the charge distance for the Knight Errant into the Demon Prince. And he's in. We will start with the Knight Errant attacking the Demon Prince using his Titanic feat. 12 attacks, hitting on 4s, getting 9 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds, 4 up armor save from the Demon Prince, and he passes 1. So on a 4 up, that will reflect a wound back onto the Knight Titan, and it does, bring him down to 9 wounds. The 2 that go through do D3 damage each, for a total of 2 damage. 2 disgustingly resilient rolls, and he passes 1. And so the Demon Prince goes from 7 wounds down to 6. Next, the Hellblasters are going to attack. These 4 will attack the Plague Surgeon, while the Sergeant and the other Hellblaster will attack the Lord of Contagion. So attacking with these 4 Hellblasters first. 8 attacks, hitting on 3s, getting 7 hits so far, re-rolling, thanks to still being within 6 inches of the Chapter Master. And that's an 8th hit. 8 hits, wounding on 5s, re-rolling 1s, getting 1 wound, and no re-rolls. So the Plague Surgeon has a 3-up armor save, which he passes. Now for the 5 attacks from the Sergeant and the regular Hellblaster onto the Lord of Contagion, hitting on 3s, re-rolling thanks to the Chapter Master, getting 4 hits, wounding on 5s, re-rolling 1s, getting 2 wounds, and the Lord of Contagion has a 2-up armor save, which he passes. Finally, the Primaris Lieutenant onto the Lord of Contagion, 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling thanks to the Chapter Master, getting all 4 hits, wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s, getting 3 wounds, Lord of Contagion will take 4 up Cataphractii Invulnerable save and will pass all 3. So now the Death Guard will attack back, starting with the Plague Surgeon, who has 3 attacks base. He has a weapon skill of 3, but because he is attacking an Adeptus Astartes infantry unit, he gets to add 1 to the hit rolls. So hitting on 2s with 6s generating additional attacks. Getting 3 hits and 2 additional attacks. Here's the 2 additional, so 5 hits out of 3 attacks. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4, but thanks to his special ability Gene Seed Thief, which gave him the +1 to hit roll, also gets +1 to wound, so 3s to wound, which didn't matter, getting 3 wounds, and re-rolling the 1 thanks to being a plague weapon, which also wounds. -3 AP, so 4 6-up armor saves, and they pass 1. So 1 regular Hellblaster will go down, and another one will take a wound. Then the Lord of Contagion is going to attack, and he's going to put all of his attacks onto the Primaris Lieutenant. So 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, with 6s generating additional attacks. And 2 misses so far, and the additional attack also hits. 3 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound, and it will do D3 damage. It will do 2 damage. So that will drop the Primaris Lieutenant from 5 wounds down to 3. Finally, the Demon Prince will hit back against the Knight Titan. 7 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1. 6s generate additional attacks. And all hit, but no additional attacks. Wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound. And the Knight Errant will have a 5-up armor save, which he passes. And that is the end of the Ultramarines assault phase. There are no morale tests to take, because the Hellblasters only lost 1 soldier, so they could not fail a morale check. Taking a look at the tactical objective cards that the Ultramarines have, they still have not completed Blood and Guts, they still are working on Scour the Skies, and they do not hold mission critical objective, which is objective marker number 3, which is right here next to the Demon Prince and the Knight Titan. They're going to toss Blood and Guts, because the likelihood of destroying an enemy unit in the fight phase, in their own fight phase, is not very likely, and they'd like to draw a new one. But they will keep Scour the Skies, and they will keep Mission Critical Objective 3, because it is entirely possible that next turn, this Knight Titan could potentially achieve both of those tactical objectives, depending on how its fight with the Demon Prince goes. So that is the end of Ultramarines Turn 4. Going into Death Guard Turn 4, the Death Guard need to draw 1 new tactical objective card, which is Defend Objective 3. Score 2 victory points if you control Objective Marker 3 at the end of 2 consecutive turns, which is the one that the Demon Prince is sitting next to, but not currently holding. And so even if he were to destroy the Knight Errant this turn and be able to consolidate, he would have to consolidate away from the objective, since he would have to consolidate towards the nearest visible enemy unit. And either way, that would pull, whether it's the repulsor or those tacticals, it would pull him away from the objective marker. So not going to start holding that this turn. Also at the beginning of Death Guard Turn 4, the Demon Prince of Nurgle regains a wound. Going into the movement phase of Death Guard Turn 4, the Demon Prince will remain locked in combat with the Knight Errant. This Lord of Contagion is going to move up the board towards this repulsor 4 inches. The Lord of Contagion will finish his movement here, which also means that he will not be charging through this crater if he chooses to charge that repulsor. These Plague Marines are going to move up the board towards the repulsor 5 inches, and they will finish their movement here. The Plague Surgeon will also move up the board towards the repulsor 5 inches, and he will finish his movement here in between the Lord of Contagion and the Plague Marines. This Chaos Land Raider is going to remain still. This Lord of Contagion is going to remain in combat with the Ultramarines. And finally, this Plague Surgeon is going to remain in combat with the Ultramarines. Going into the Psychic phase of Death Guard Turn 4, the Demon Prince of Nurgle is going to cast Smite onto the Knight Errant. Needs a 5, and he fails the Psychic test. Going into the shooting phase of Death Guard Turn 4, this Plague Surgeon is going to fire a bolt pistol into the repulsor, hitting on a 3 and fails to hit. The 3 Plague Marines are going to fire their plasma guns rapid fire, supercharged shots into the repulsor. Starting with the champion, getting 2 hits. The Plague Marine on the champion's left, also getting 2 hits. And the Plague Marine on the champion's right, getting 2 misses, but no ones. Wounding on 4s, getting 1 wound. The Repulsor will have a 6-up armor save and fails. And since it's supercharged, it will do 2 damage, so the Repulsor will go from 9 wounds down to 7. Finally, the Chaos Land Raider is going to shoot its twin heavy bolter into the Repulsor, and it's going to shoot its 2 twin last cannons into the Ultramarines Land Raider. Starting with the twin heavy bolter, hitting on 4s, getting 5 hits. Wounding on 5s, getting 2 wounds. The Repulsor will have a 4-up armor save and passes both. Now the 2 twin last cannons into the Ultramarines Land Raider, hitting on 4s, getting 1 hit. Wounding on a 3, and it wounds. 5-up armor save, which it fails, and it will do d6 damage, and it will do 4. So the Ultramarines Land Raider will go from 16 wounds down to 12. Finally, moving into the Death Guard assault phase, there is 1 charge to declare. The Lord of Contagion will declare charge into the Repulsor. The Repulsor will overwatch with everything, starting with the last Talon. 2 shots hitting on 6s, failing to hit. 2 Crack Storm Grenade Launchers, hitting on 6s with 1 hit. Wounding on a 3, fails to wound. Twin Heavy Bolter, 6 shots, hitting on 6s, fails to hit. Iron Hail Heavy Stubber, 3 shots, hitting on 6s, fails to hit. Finally, the 3 Storm Bolters, 12 shots, hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit. Wounding on a 5, and it wounds. 2-up armor save, and it's saved. And now the charge distance, subtracting 2, thanks to the Repulsor field, getting 8 inches, so a 6-inch charge. And the Lord of Contagion would still be about half an inch away, so he needed a 7-inch charge, which means he needed to roll a 9 in order to pass. So that is a failed charge. So moving into the fight phase and ongoing combat, the Death Guard are going to start with their Demon Prince. 7 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s, 6s generate additional attacks. And only getting 6 hits so far, but re-rolling the 1, and all 7 hit. Wounding on 5s, getting 2 wounds. 5-up armor save, and the Knight Errant fails 1, which takes 2 damage, bringing it from 9 wounds down to 7. The Ultramarines will then have their Hellblaster squad attack, with these 3 Hellblasters attacking the Surgeon, and the Sergeant and the regular Hellblaster attacking the Contagion. Starting with these 3, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s against the Plague Surgeon. Re-rolling, thanks to the Chapter Master being nearby, and all 6 hit. Wounding on 5s, re-rolling 1s, hitting 5 wounds so far, and re-rolling the 1, which does not wound. So the Plague Surgeon will have a 3-up armor save, and he fails 4. So 4 disgustingly resilient rolls, re-rolling 1s, passes 1 and fails 1, but re-rolls the 2 1s, and only fails 2, going down to 1 wound. And now the Sergeant and the regular Hellblaster onto the Lord of Contagion. 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling, getting all 5 hits. Wounding on 5s, re-rolling 1s, getting 2 wounds. 2 2-up armor saves, and the Lord of Contagion passes both. So now the Death Guard Lord of Contagion will attack, and he will put all of his attacks onto the Lieutenant. 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, 6s generate additional attacks. Missing 1, but getting 1 additional attack, which also hits. Wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s. Wow, that's a terrible roll. With 3 definite misses and 1 re-roll, which does wound. A 6-up armor save on the Lieutenant, which he passes. Wow. So now the Lieutenant will attack back onto the Lord of Contagion. 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling thanks to the Chapter Master, and all hit. Wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. 3 4-up invulnerable saves, and fails 1. 1 damage, so the Lord of Contagion will take 1 disgustingly resilient roll, which it passes. So now the Plague Surgeon will attack back onto the Hellblasters. 3 attacks, hitting on 2s, all hit. Wounding on 3s, all wound. 6-up armor save, and fails 2. So the wounded Hellblaster will go down, and then this Hellblaster will take a wound. Finally, the Knight Errant will attack back onto the Demon Prince. He is going to attempt to use his Thunder Strike Gauntlet, even though he needs 5s to hit. So 4 attacks, hitting on 5s, getting 1 hit. Wounding on a 2, and it wounds. 5-up invulnerable save, which fails, and it will do 6 damage. So 6 disgustingly resilient rolls, and passes 4. The Demon Prince goes from 7 wounds down to 5. And that is it for the assault phase of Death Guard turn 4. There are no morale tests, as only one Hellblaster model was removed, so they do not need to take a morale check. And so that is the end of Death Guard turn 4. Taking a look at the tactical objective cards, the Death Guard have now passed over 7 Disgustingly Resilient rolls, so they get 1 victory point for Disgusting Devotions. And at this point, because the Demon Prince is still locked in combat, and this is the end of turn 4, they will throw away Defend Objective 3, and they will hold on to Spread Contagion. So at the end of the Death Guard turn 4, the Death Guard have 3 victory points, while the Ultramarines have 5 victory points. Moving into Ultramarines Turn 5, the Ultramarines need to draw 1 new tactical objective card, which is Defend Objective 1. Score 2 victory points if you control Objective Marker 1 at the end of 2 consecutive turns. And Objective Marker 1 is this one right here. Going into the movement phase, first thing that needs to be done is the Demon Prince regenerates 1 wound and is back up to 6. The Knight Errant is going to fall back away from close combat with the Demon Prince. He's going to fall back around this way to be closer to Objective Marker 3. And the Knight Errant will end up here behind the Demon Prince, just over an inch away. This tactical squad will stay still. This Land Raider is going to move this direction towards the Death Guard, 10 inches. And the Land Raider will finish its move right here. A reminder that the Terminators are still embarked inside. The Chapter Master is going to move 5 inches towards Objective Marker 1. He will finish his move right here, and he is now within 3 inches of the center of Objective Marker number 1. And this Repulsor is going to move backwards away from the Lord of Contagion and the other Death Guard models, about 5 inches, but still maintaining a 12-inch rapid-fire range for the Stormbolters with the Lord of Contagion. And the Repulsor will end its move right here. The Knight Errant is going to fire his Thermal Cannon into the Demon Prince, and will fire his Heavy Stubber and his Iron Storm Missile Pod into those Plague Marines. Starting with the Thermal Cannon, D6 shots, getting 6 shots, hitting on 4s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds, 3 5-up invulnerable saves, and passes 2. D6 damage, rolling 2 dice, taking the highest, and getting 5 damage. 5 disgustingly resilient rolls, and fails 3. So the Demon Prince will go from 6 wounds down to 3. Now for the Heavy Stubber, into the Plague Marines, 3 shots, hitting on 4s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 5s, getting no wounds, and now D6 shots from the Iron Storm Missile Pod, getting 6 shots. Hitting on 4s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 4s, getting 3 wounds, -1 AP, so the Plague Marines will have a 4-up armor save, and they fail all 3. And these are 2 damage apiece, so the first one, disgustingly resilient, and so 1 Plague Marine will go down. The second one, re-rolling the 1 thanks to the Plague Surgeon, but still fails and will go down. And finally, the Champion will definitely go down, but re-rolling the 1 and still failed. So 6 failed disgustingly resilient rolls results in 3 dead Plague Marines. This Land Raider is now going to fire everything it can into the Chaos Land Raider, because thanks to these 2 Death Guard characters being locked in combat, they are closer than this Lord of Contagion, and so this Land Raider cannot target this Lord of Contagion, thanks to this Plague Surgeon being closer and this Lord of Contagion as well. So the Storm Bolter is out of range, but the Twin Heavy Bolter and the 2 Twin Last Cannons can fire at the Land Raider. Starting with the Twin Heavy Bolter, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound, and a 3-up armor save, which it passes. 2 Twin Last Cannons, hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, getting a wound, 6-up armor save, which it fails, and D6 damage, and it will do 5, taking the Chaos Land Raider from 8 wounds down to 3. This Repulsor will then fire its last Talon into the Chaos Land Raider, and it will fire everything else into this Lord of Contagion, which it can do, because this Lord of Contagion and this Lord of Contagion are the same distance away from the Repulsor, and so since they're equidistant, he will choose to target this Lord of Contagion. So starting with the last Talon, hitting on 4s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and it fails to wound. Now against the Lord of Contagion, 2 Crackstorm Grenade Launchers, hitting on 4s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. Lord of Contagion will take a 3-up armor save and will fail 1. It will do D3 damage and will do 3 damage. 3 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, rerolling 1s thanks to the Plague Surgeon, and goes down. And so because the Lord of Contagion was killed off, all the other weapons on the repulsor go to waste, although this Plague Surgeon would be further away than this Lord of Contagion, so now he cannot target with them. Although he could have used those weapons to potentially target the Land Raider, but that's okay. So going into the Ultramarines Turn 5 Assault phase, the Knight Errant will declare charge onto the Demon Prince. And here's the charge range, and he's in. Barely, but he's in. Going into the fight phase, we will start with the one charging unit, the Knight Errant. Since the Demon Prince only has 3 wounds left, the Knight Errant is going to try attacking with Titanic Feet. 12 attacks, hitting on 4s, getting 6 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 5 wounds. 4-up armor save, and passes 4 of them. So first, the 4 that were saved on 4-ups, they reflect mortal wounds back. And 2 mortal wounds back onto the Knight Errant, dropping him from 7 wounds down to 5. Now for the damage against the Demon Prince, and it will do 2 wounds. So 2 disgustingly resilient rolls, and both fail. So the Demon Prince goes from 3 wounds down to 1, but the Demon Prince is still alive. Next, the Hellblasters will attack. There are 2 regular Hellblasters attacking the Plague Surgeon and the Sergeant, and 1 Hellblaster attacking the Lord of Contagion. 2 regular Hellblasters first, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 wounds. 2 3-up armor saves, and passes both. And then the 5 attacks from the regular Hellblaster and the Sergeant onto the Lord of Contagion, hitting on 3s, rerolling thanks to the Chapter Master. Getting all 5 hits. Wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s, and the 2 rerolls, getting 1 wound. 2-up armor save, and he passes. So now the Lord of Contagion will attack the Lieutenant. 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, 6s generate additional attacks, getting 4 hits. Wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s. 2 wounds so far with 2 1s to reroll. And the rerolls, getting 3 wounds. 3 6-up armor saves, and passes 1. And these do D3 damage apiece. So there is a chance that the Lieutenant could survive, and he does with 1 wound left. Can you believe it? Snake Eyes for the damage. Wow. Now the Lieutenant will attack back against the Lord of Contagion. 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling, thanks to the Chapter Master. Getting 4 hits. Wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s, getting 4 wounds. 4 4-up Cataphractii invulnerable saves, and fails 1. And 1 disgustingly resilient roll, and fails. So Lord of Contagion goes from 5 wounds down to 4. Now the Plague Surgeon will attack the Hellblasters. 3 attacks, hitting on 2s, 6s generate additional attacks, getting 2 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds, and 2 6-up armor saves, and fails both. So the 1 wounded Hellblaster goes down, and then 1 other normal Hellblaster will take a wound. And so now the Demon Prince will finally attack back against the Knight Errant. 7 attacks. Hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, 6s generate additional attacks, and that's a lot of 1s. So 3 hits so far, rerolling the 4 1s, and all hit. Wounding on 5s, getting 3 wounds. 3 5-up armor saves. If all 3 of these are failed, the Knight Errant goes down. And the Knight Errant goes down at the last second because they're 2 damage apiece. And on a 6, he explodes, and he does not explode. And the Demon Prince is not going to consolidate because he doesn't want to get any closer to that repulsor, because in his next turn, he is going to hide. And that's the end of the Ultramarines Turn 5 Assault phase. There are no morale tests to take, as only 1 Hellblaster was killed, and that's not enough for them to fail a morale check. Taking a quick look at the Ultramarines tactical objective cards, they have not yet scoured the skies. They now do not hold mission critical objective number 3, thanks to the Knight Errant dying, but they are now 1 turn into defending objective 1. But because no one is now near objective marker 3, they are going to toss mission critical objective, just in case the game continues on. And so at the end of Ultramarines Turn 5, the Ultramarines have 5 victory points, and the Death Guard have 3 victory points. Going into Death Guard turn 5, the Death Guard need to draw 2 new tactical objective cards. First is Kingslayer. Score D3 victory points if your opponent's warlord has been destroyed during this or any previous turn. And Secure Objective 6. Score 1 victory point if you control Objective Marker 6 at the end of your turn. And Objective Marker 6 is this one all the way over here, currently being held by this tactical squad. At the start of the Death Guard movement phase, the Demon Prince regenerates 1 wound and goes from 1 wound back up to 2. This Demon Prince is going to move 12 inches and jump over to here in order to better attack that repulsor. He will end his movement here. He is also doing this so that if the game continues into turn 6, he will be in much closer range to potentially be able to attack the Ultramarines Chapter Master, who is their warlord. This Plague Surgeon is going to move 5 inches over this way, and he will end his movement here. And finally, this Chaos Land Raider is going to move up the board 3 inches, right to there. Going into the Death Guard Psychic phase, the Demon Prince of Nurgle is going to cast Smite into the repulsor. It needs a 5 to go off, and it does. It will do D3 mortal wounds, and it does 2, which drops the repulsor from 7 wounds down to 5. Going into the shooting phase, the Plague Surgeon is going to fire a bolt pistol into the repulsor, hitting on a 3, and it hits, wounding on a 6, and it fails to wound. The Chaos Land Raider is going to fire both of its twin last cannons into the repulsor and its twin heavy bolter into the Ultramarines Land Raider. Starting with the 2 twin last cannons, 4 shots, hitting on 5s now that he's down to 3 wounds, and no hits. Now the twin heavy bolter, hitting on 5s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 5, and it wounds, and the Land Raider will have a 3-up armor save, which he passes. And also, lastly in the shooting phase, I think this is the first time all game I've remembered this, but pistols can fire even if you're locked in combat, so the Plague Surgeon is going to fire a bolt pistol into the Hellblasters. And looking back at it, I'm pretty sure I've forgotten that they could have fired bolt pistols and the Lieutenant could have fired bolt pistols. But here's the Plague Surgeon's bolt pistol hitting on a 3, and it fails to hit anyways. So moving into the Death Guard assault phase, we have 2 charges to declare. First is this Plague Surgeon is going to declare a charge into the Primaris Lieutenant, and the second charge is the Demon Prince is going to declare a charge onto the repulsor. So starting with the Plague Surgeon, there's no overwatch, so here's the charge distance, and 8 inches is more than enough to get him in. Now for the overwatch from the repulsor, he will start with the Last Talon, needing 6s to hit, failing to hit. Now the 2 Crackstorm grenade launchers, needing 6s, fails to hit. 3 shots from the Iron Hail Heavy Stubber, needing 6s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 5, and fails to wound. Twin Heavy Bolter, 6 shots, needing 6s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 5, and fails to wound. Finally, the 3 Storm Bolters, 12 shots, needing 6s, getting 2 hits, needing 5s to wound, and gets 1 wound. 2-up armor save, which fails, and a disgustingly resilient roll, which also fails. So the Demon Prince goes down to 1 wound, and his charge range is more than enough. So we'll start with the Demon Prince against the repulsor. 7 attacks, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, 6s generate additional attacks. And so far we have 3 additional attacks and 3 rerolls. Starting with the rerolls, getting 3 more hits, and now the 3 additional attacks, getting 3 more hits. So getting 10 hits out of 7 attacks, needing 5s to wound, getting 3 wounds. The repulsor will take a 5-up armor save and passes 2. So only 1 goes through, which is 2 damage. So the repulsor drops from 5 wounds down to 3. Next, the Plague Surgeon, who also charged, will put all of his attacks onto the Lieutenant. 3 attacks, hitting on 2s. 6s cause additional attacks. And there's 1 additional attack in there. So getting 4 hits, wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 3 wounds. And the Lieutenant has a 6-up armor save, and he passes 1 but fails 2 and will go down. Now the units locked in combat already will go, and so the Lord of Contagion will go first. All of his attacks onto the Hellblasters. 4 attacks, hitting on 2s. 6s cause additional attacks, and getting 2 misses. The additional attack also missed. Wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. 2 6-up armor saves, and both fail. These do D3 damage apiece, but the first one will simply remove the model with 1 wound left. And so the second attack will only do 1 damage. So the one remaining regular Hellblaster will be down to 1 wound. Now the Hellblasters will attack back. The 1 regular Hellblaster onto the Plague Surgeon, the Sergeant onto the Lord of Contagion. Starting with the regular Hellblaster, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 5s, getting no wounds. And now the Sergeant, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling thanks to the Chapter Master, only getting 2 hits, wounding on 5s, and fails to wound. So now the Plague Surgeon will attack back, 3 attacks, hitting on 2s, 6s generate additional, getting 1 additional attack, which fails to hit. Oh, which does hit. Hits on 2s. So 4 hits, wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s, getting 1 miss and 1 re-roll. Here's the re-roll, and 3 wounds. 6 up armor save, and all 3 go through, which means the regular Hellblaster with 1 wound left is taken down, and the Sergeant loses both of his wounds and goes down. And before we forget, we have consolidation moves. So this Lord of Contagion will consolidate into the Chapter Master, who will get to attack, and the Plague Surgeon will also consolidate into the Chapter Master. This Plague Surgeon can consolidate 3 inches, but will still be out of combat with the Chapter Master. So we will do the Repulsor next, and then we will come back to the Chapter Master's attacks. So the Repulsor has 1 attack back on the Demon Prince, hitting on a 6 and fails to hit. So now the Chapter Master is going to put all 5 of his attacks in melee Bolt Storm Gauntlet form onto the Lord of Contagion. Hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, getting 1 re-roll, and all 5 hit. Wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds, no longer re-rolling 1s now that the Lieutenant is dead. 4 up invuln and passes 2. So the one that goes through will do D3 damage, and it'll do 2 damage, 2 disgustingly resilient rolls, and passes 1. So Lord of Contagion goes from 4 wounds down to 3, and will remain locked in combat. And there are no morale tests to take at the end of Death Guard turn 5. So taking a look at the tactical objective cards, Spread Contagion is still in effect. Kingslayer has not yet happened, but possibly could. Secure Objective 6 has not been taken care of and will be impossible to achieve, so they will toss that one away just in case the game continues on. So that is the end of Death Guard turn 5 and officially the end of turn 5, which means we now need to roll to see if the game will continue. On a 3 up, the game will continue into turn 6. On a 1 or a 2, the game is over. And the game will continue into turn 6. Going into Ultramarines turn 6, the Ultramarines need to draw 1 new tactical objective card. And they drew Advance, which is score 1 victory point if no unit from your army is within your deployment zone at the end of your turn. So going into the Ultramarines turn 6 movement phase, first things first, the Demon Prince of Nurgle regenerates 1 wound and goes from 1 wound back up to 2. Then, this squad of tactical marines is actually going to move up the board in order to get out of their deployment zone. They're going to move 6 inches towards the Death Guard side, and they will end their movement here, and there are now no Ultramarines units within the Ultramarines deployment zone. Next, this Repulsor is going to fall back 3 inches away from the Demon Prince, and to potentially be in a better shot for that Plague Surgeon. Next, the Terminators embarked in this Land Raider are going to disembark. And they will all disembark right here. Wobbly model syndrome, but they will be moving up closer to the Death Guard anyways, so their positioning will change momentarily. So now they will move up the board. And here's where the Terminators ended up. The Chapter Master will remain in combat, and this Land Raider will reposition itself a little bit. And it will finish its movement here. So now, moving into the Ultramarine shooting phase, this Land Raider will fire everything it has into the Chaos Land Raider. The Stormbolter is just within 24-inch range. So we'll start with that. 2 shots from the Stormbolter, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 6s, getting 1 wound, 2 up armor save, and it passes. The Twin Heavy Bolter next, 6 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 5s, getting no wounds. And finally, the 2 Twin Last Cannons, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 4 wounds, 4 5-up armor saves, and passes 2. But these will do D6 damage apiece, and so anything other than Snake Eyes, and the Chaos Land Raider is removed. On a 6 it explodes, and it does explode, but there are no units within 6 inches of the Chaos Land Raider, so it's a wasted explosion, and it's removed from the game. Next, before I forget, the Chapter Master is going to fire his Bolt Storm Gauntlet, which is a pistol, into the Plague Surgeon. 3 shots hitting on 2s, re-rolling, and re-rolling, getting 3 hits, wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound, and a 3-up armor save, which he passes. Going over to this tactical squad, the Sergeant's bolt gun is within range of the Demon Prince, and he is the closest visible enemy model. So the one bolt gun shot and the last cannon shot will fire into the Demon Prince. Starting with the last cannon, hitting on a 3 and getting a hit. Wounding on a 3 and failing to wound. Now for the bolt gun, hitting on a 3 and fails to hit. Because it has to, the repulsor is going to fire everything it can into the Demon Prince. I would rather that he be able to fire some shots at this Plague Surgeon, but the Demon Prince is closer and therefore has to target the Demon Prince. Starting with the last Talon, 2 shots hitting on 5s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 3, and it wounds. 5-up save, and fails to save. D6 damage. Does 1 damage. 1 5-up Disgustingly Resilient, which fails, so the Demon Prince goes from 2 down to 1 wound. Now for the 2 Crack Storm Grenade Launchers, hitting on 5s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 4s, getting 1 wound, minus 1 AP, so a 3-up armor save, which it passes. Twin Heavy Bolter, 6 shots, hitting on 5s, getting 3 hits, wounding on 5s, getting 2 wounds, 3-up armor save again, and passes both. 3 shots from the Iron Hail Heavy Stubber, hitting on 5s, getting 1 hit, wounding on a 5, and it wounds. Minus 1 AP, so a 3-up armor save, and it passes. Finally, 3 Storm Bolters in rapid fire range, hitting on 5s, getting 5 hits, wounding on 5s, getting 3 wounds, 3 2-up armor saves, and fails 2 5-up Disgustingly Resilient rolls. If one of these has failed, the Demon Prince goes down, and the Demon Prince is killed. 2 Stormbolter fire, and that is the Warlord kill. I can't believe it took everything the Repulsor had, but he finally did it. So that is the end of the Ultramarine shooting phase. Moving into the Ultramarines assault phase, there is 1 charge to declare. The Terminators will declare charge against the Plague Surgeon, the Lord of Contagion, and the Plague Surgeon. There is 1 bolt pistol to Overwatch from this Plague Surgeon, and it fails to hit. So now the charge range, and they get 5 inches, which is enough for the Sergeant to make it into combat with this Plague Surgeon. And here's where they'll end up. So going into the fight phase, the charging unit gets to attack first. So we have the Terminator Sergeant attacking this Plague Surgeon. We will have these 2 Terminators attack this Lord of Contagion, and we will have these 2 Terminators attack this Plague Surgeon. So starting with these 2 Terminators against this Plague Surgeon. 4 attacks total, hitting on 3s, re-rolling thanks to the Chapter Master, and re-rolling, getting 3 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. Plague Surgeon will have 2 6-up armor saves, and fails both. They do D3 damage apiece, and it'll do 4 damage total. 4 5-up Disgustingly Resilient rolls, re-rolling 1s, passes 2, but fails 2, and so this Plague Surgeon will go down. So now for these 2 Terminators against the Lord of Contagion, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling thanks to the Chapter Master, and the re-rolls, getting 1 more hit, wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds, 4-up Cataphractii Invulnerable save, and fails 1. It will do D3 damage. It does 2 damage, 2 5-up Disgustingly Resilience, fails 1 and passes 1. So the Lord of Contagion goes down to 2 wounds. Finally, the Terminator Sergeant onto the Plague Surgeon. 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling thanks to the Chapter Master, getting 2 hits, wounding on 5s, getting no wounds. So now the Chapter Master will attack the Lord of Contagion using the melee form of his Bolt Storm Gauntlet. 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, re-rolling the 1, getting 2 misses, and 3 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds, 3 4-up Invulnerable saves, and all 3 make it. Wow, that was a good roll. So now the Lord of Contagion will attack back against the Chapter Master. 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, 6s generate additional attacks, missing 1 but getting 1 additional attack, which hits. So 4 hits out of 4 attacks, wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s, getting 2 re-rolls so far, getting 4 wounds, 4 up Iron Halo saves, and he passes all of his invulnerable saves. Finally, the Plague Surgeon against the Terminators, because he's next to the Terminator Sergeant. 3 attacks. Hitting on 2, 6s generate additional attacks. Getting 1 additional, and it fails to hit. Wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s. Getting 3 wounds. Terminators have a 5-up save, and they fail 2. And so 1 regular Terminator will go down. And so that is the end of the Ultramarines Assault phase. There are no morale checks to take because Terminators only lost 1 model and cannot fail a morale check after only losing 1 model. So that is the end of Ultramarines Turn 6. And taking a look at the Ultramarines tactical objective cards, thanks to getting the Warlord kill, it brings them up to 6 victory points. To start, so the Ultramarines did achieve advance for having no units in their own deployment zone, which is worth 1. Because the Lord of Contagion charged the last turn, he is now contesting objective marker 1, which means they are no longer defending it, and that completely undoes everything that they were doing. So at the end of Ultramarines Turn 6, it is now impossible for them to achieve defend objective 1 because they would need 2 new turns after killing off that Lord of Contagion. So they will toss that one. And the Ultramarines did achieve Scour the Skies by killing the Demon Prince, which is worth 1 victory point, which brings the Ultramarines up to a total of 8 victory points at the end of Ultramarines Turn 6. So at this time, the total victory point count is 8 for the Ultramarines and 3 for the Death Guard. Going into Death Guard Turn 6, the Death Guard need to draw 1 new tactical objective card, which is Blood and Guts. Score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed during the fight phase of this turn. If 3 or more enemy units were destroyed during the fight phase of this turn, score D3 victory points instead. So going into the Death Guard movement phase, both units will remain locked in combat. Going into the Psychic phase, the Demon Prince is dead, and so there's no more psychic powers to cast. Going into the shooting phase, the Plague Surgeon will fire a bolt pistol into the Terminator, hitting on a 3, and it hits, wounding on a 4, and it wounds, and a 2-up armor save, and it passes. Going into the Death Guard Assault phase, there are no charges to declare as both of the remaining Death Guard units are locked in combat, so we will go straight into the fight phase. And the first unit to attack will be the Lord of Contagion onto the Chapter Master. 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, 6s generate new ones, getting 3 hits, wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s, getting 3 wounds, 3 4-up Iron Halo invulnerable saves, and 2 go through, and it will do 4 damage. However, on 6s, the Chapter Master ignores the wounds, and so he only takes 3, going from 6 wounds down to 3 wounds. Next, the Terminators will pile in and attack. So we have the 3 Terminators against the Lord of Contagion, and the Sergeant against the Plague Surgeon. Starting with the 3 regular Terminators. 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling thanks to the Chapter Master. And the re-rolls, getting 1 additional hit, wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds, 3 4-up Cataphractii invulnerable saves, and fails 2. These will do D3 damage apiece, and it does 4 damage. 4 disgustingly resilient rolls, and fails all 4. So this Lord of Contagion will go down, which does mean that the Chapter Master is no longer in combat. Finally, the Sergeant onto the Plague Surgeon. 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling thanks to the Chapter Master, getting all 3 hits, wounding on 5s, getting no wounds. And now the Plague Surgeon will attack back against the Terminators. 3 attacks, hitting on 2, 6s generate additional attacks, getting 2 hits, wounding on 4s, re-rolling 1s, wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s, getting 2 wounds, 2 5-up saves, and both fail, so 1 additional Terminator will go down. And that's the end of the fight phase, and since this is the Death Guard turn, if it does go into turn 7, it will be the Ultramarines turn, so the Chapter Master is not going to consolidate into combat because it would be better for him to charge the next turn if the next turn happens. And the Terminators do not need to take a morale test for only losing 1 Terminator. So that is the end of Death Guard Turn 6. So at the end of Death Guard Turn 6, Spread Contagion is no longer possible to get since the designated unit was killed off. Kingslayer has not happened, and Blood and Guts has not happened. So now we need to roll a dice, and on a 4-up, the game will continue into turn 7. On a 1, 2, or 3, the game is over. And the game is over at the end of turn 6. So taking a final look at the victory points. The Death Guard did not achieve First Blood, Linebreaker, or Slay the Warlord, and so they just have the 3 victory points. And taking a look at the Ultramarines victory points, they received 6 victory points from their tactical objective cards. They achieved First Blood, they achieved Slay the Warlord, and thanks to their Land Raider, they also achieved Linebreaker, which puts them up to a grand total of 9 victory points. And so the Ultramarines will have a major victory over the Death Guard with a total of 9 victory points to 3.